Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Back Porch Sports Report's Golden Games, a look at the greatest games ever played in sports history. Each episode will focus on one game or series that had a big impact on how we view sports. We will look at the teams, players, and moments that make it special and memorable. Today's Golden Game is the 2018 College Football Playoff National Championship. The 2018 College Football Playoff National Championship game was, of course, a college football bowl game that determined a national champion in the NCAA Division I Football Bowl Subdivision for the 2017 season. In 2018, the College Football Playoff Selection Committee chose the semifinalists following the conclusion of the 2017 regular season. The Alabama Crimson Tide defeated the Clemson Tigers in the Sugar Bowl 24-6 on January 1st, 2018 to claim the first spot. The Georgia Bulldogs defeated the Oklahoma Sooners 54-48 in a shootout in double overtime in the Rose Bowl to claim the second spot. The championship game was played at Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, Georgia on January 8, 2018. The attendance for the game was 77,430 people. The game was televised nationally by ESPN. On the telecast, Chris Fowler had play-by-play. Kirk Herbstreit was the analyst. Maria Taylor and Tom Rinaldi were the sideline reporters. Also covering the game was Sean McDonough, Todd Blackledge, Holly Rowe, and Ian Fitzsimmons for ESPN Radio. The game received a Nielsen rating of 16.7, which meant that 28.44 million viewers watched the 2018 National Championship. The network also announced that its broadcast would feature a live performance by Kendrick Lamar during halftime. This performance was separate from the event proper at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, which featured a traditional halftime show with the marching bands of the participating teams and originated from Centennial Olympic Park. That was a bit different for college football games back at that time. Now it's pretty much standard that those types of concerts happen as well. Let's take a look at the teams for the national championship in 2018. First, we'll look at the Alabama Crimson Tide. Of course, they were coached by Nick Saban, coming off a national title game loss the previous year to Clemson in 2016. Began the year ranked first in the AP poll. The team opened the year with a victory over then number 3 Florida State in the Chick-fil-A kickoff game, which was the highest-ranked season-opening matchup in the history of the AP poll. Alabama won their first 11 games convincingly, but fell on the road to rival Auburn in the regular season finale. And since the two teams were tied atop the SEC West division at 7-1, Auburn actually advanced to the 2017 SEC championship game on the head-to-head tiebreaker. Alabama fell to number 6 in the rankings leading up to the conference championship weekend. In the final college football playoff rankings of the year, 11-1 Alabama, with much controversy, rose to number 4 after sitting idle, ahead of 12-1 Wisconsin, 11-2 Big Ten Conference champion Ohio State, and 12-0 American Athletic Conference champion University of Central Florida. This earned Alabama a place in the national semifinals to be played in the Sugar Bowl against the first-seeded Clemson Tigers, the third consecutive playoff meeting between the two schools. Alabama won by a score of 24-6, as I said just a minute earlier, and advanced to the national championship game. Alabama's offense was led by quarterback Jalen Hurts, who finished with 2,081 passing yards, 17 touchdowns, and just 1 interception. He added 855 rushing yards and 8 rushing touchdowns on the ground. Freshman quarterback Tua Tagovailoa served as the backup and was named game MVP of the national championship game after Hurt was benched at halftime. Running back Damian Harris led the rushing attack with exactly 1,000 yards and 11 touchdowns on the year. Wide receiver Calvin Ridley and offensive tackle Jonah Williams were named first-team All-SEC. The Crimson Tide defense, which led the country in scoring and yards allowed, was led by consensus first-team All-American safety Minkah Fitzpatrick. He was joined on the All-SEC first team by defensive tackles Darian Payne and Raekwon Davis, linebacker Rasheem Evans, and safety Ronnie Harrison. The 2017 Georgia Bulldogs football team competed in the Eastern Division of the Southeastern Conference and was led by second-year head coach Kirby Smart. The Bulldogs notched their 800th win in program history during the season with a 41-0 victory over Tennessee on September 30th, 2017. The Bulldogs were crowned Southeastern Conference champions on December 2nd, 2017, with a postseason win over the Auburn Tigers, against whom they had suffered their only defeat in the regular season. This was their first conference title since 2005. After winning against Auburn, 2017 became only the fifth season in which Georgia beat all of its traditional rivals, Auburn, Florida, Georgia Tech, Tennessee, in the same season. Previously, that had only been done in 1980, 1982, 2011, and 2012. Georgia received its first ever college football playoff appearance against Oklahoma in the school's first Rose Bowl game since 1942. Georgia won by a score of 54-48 in double overtime. This allowed the Bulldogs to reach the national championship game for the first time since 1982. Now let's take a look at the game summary for the 2018 college football playoff national championship game. After winning the coin toss, Alabama deferred to the second half, and Georgia received the ball to begin the game. After two plays, quarterback Jake Fromm attempted a pass downfield and was intercepted by Tony Brown. Alabama began their first drive of the game, and after 11 plays, that drive ended with a missed 40-yard field goal. Following that, the team each had 3 and outs with the game's first 2 punts. During Georgia's ensuing drive, the quarter ended with no score at the end of one. After a failed third down conversion on the second play of the second quarter, Georgia kicker Rodrigo Blankenship hit a 41-yard field goal to open the scoring and put Georgia in the lead by 3. Alabama's ensuing drive went nowhere as they gained 4 yards on 3 plays and punted. Georgia took the ball and drove downfield and found themselves with first and goal at the Alabama 10-yard line. The Tide's defense, though, held, and the Bulldogs had to settle for a second field goal and took a 6-0 lead with just over 7.5 minutes left until half. On Alabama's next drive, the Georgia defense held yet again, and Alabama's J.K. Scott punted for the third time. Just prior to the punt, Georgia's wide receiver Javon Wims was shown walking to the locker room, reportedly with a left shoulder injury. Both defenses then forced punts, and Georgia took back over with 1 minute and 19 seconds left on the clock until halftime on their own 31-yard line. 9 plays later, on Alabama's 1-yard line, Mecole Hardman took a direct snap, faked a handoff, and ran into the end zone for the game's first touchdown, putting Georgia up 13-0 going into halftime. Now, because they deferred the coin toss, Alabama would receive the ball first in the second half. They started their drive on their own 22-yard line. Tua Tagovailoa, Alabama's backup quarterback at the time, started the second half for the Tide, but the drive went nowhere, quickly resulting in a 3-and-out. The initial punt was blocked, but an offside call gave the Tide another chance to punt. Georgia started their drive on their own 36-yard line, but punted on 4th and 17. Alabama took over on their own 44-yard line. The teams then traded touchdowns on consecutive drives. Alabama scored their first points of the game on a 6-yard pass from Tagovailoa to Henry Ruggs, but Georgia immediately responded with an 80-yard touchdown connection from Fromm to Hardman, putting Georgia up 20-7. On the second play of Alabama's ensuing drive, Tagovailoa, while scrambling to the left, threw into traffic and was intercepted by Georgia's DeAndre Baker. Up 13 at this point, the Bulldogs took over possession of the ball on the Alabama 39-yard line. The Tide defense responded immediately, however, as Raekwon Davis intercepted a Jake Fromm pass on the first play of Georgia's drive, returning the ball to the Georgia 40-yard line. The Tide gained 15 yards on 6 plays, and kicker Andy Papatos avenged his earlier miss with a 43-yard field goal that put Alabama within 10. The teams then traded punts. Just prior to Alabama's punt, it was announced that an Alabama defensive back, Kyrick McDonald, had collapsed on the sideline. The situation was actually described as a serious medical emergency. He was loaded onto a medical stretcher, awake and conscious. After several minutes of break and stoppage in the game, Georgia could not muster anything on offense that drive and had to punt. The fourth quarter saw Tua Tagovailoa lead the Tide to come back and tie the game at 20 with 3 minutes and 49 seconds left. And then, with 3 seconds remaining in the game, Alabama missed a potential game-winning 36-yard field goal wide to the left, sending the game into overtime. In overtime, Georgia had an unsuccessful drive that resulted in both a 3-and-out and a 13-yard loss sack to Fromm. Georgia opted to attempt a 51-yard field goal, which they made. On Alabama's first offensive play in overtime, Tagovailoa was sacked for a 16-yard loss, but immediately followed that with a game-winning 41-yard touchdown pass to Devontae Smith in a play that has been called 2nd and 26 by fans. Tagovailoa was named the offensive player of the game, and Darian Payne was named the defensive player of the game. And you would think that would mean clear-cut that Alabama was your national champions. Well, in a situation that harkened back to the days of the BCS and before, following an undefeated season in the American Athletic Conference and their victory over the Auburn Tigers in the 2018 Peach Bowl, the Knights claimed the national championship by virtue of being the only undefeated team in the FBS level of college football. Adding to their argument was the fact that Auburn had defeated both Alabama and Georgia during the 2017 regular season. USC held a victory parade at Disney World and even hung a national championship banner at their stadium to celebrate their achievement. The school went as far, too, as to pay national championship bonuses to all of its assistant coaches, many of whom left UCF after the Peach Bowl to follow head coach Scott Frost to his new head coaching job at Nebraska. Frost himself, who had coached UCF in the game, did not receive such a bonus because he had already been paid all of the bonuses allowed in his contract. Following all this, the selection committee added to the controversy, ranked undefeated UCF 12th at the end of the regular season, below a number of 2-loss teams from the Power 5 conferences, which held them out of the college football playoff. The AP poll ranked Alabama number 1 in its final poll, receiving 57 first-place votes, while UCF was ranked 6th and received 4 first-place votes. The first time in the college football era that the AP poll did not have a unanimous number 1 team. Additionally, the Knights finished the 2017 season as the number 1 team in the Colley Matrix rankings. The Colley Matrix was used in the past as one of the inputs to the BCS computer rankings and is included in a list of historical national championship major selections. So what do you think about all that, folks? I mean, the fact that, UCF had their argument that they could be considered national champions. Now, I know a lot of you out there saying, well, the college football playoff is the one that decides it, and they created the college football playoff so that this sort of thing and the fighting over it wouldn't happen with the BCS and all the things that they did in the past to decide who was the national champion in college football. But I think this was a year that they sort of messed up. I think UCF should have gotten an opportunity. Now, would they have beaten any of these teams, the top 4? We don't know. It's kind of like what happened this year with Cincinnati. They had an undefeated season, and they were put into the playoffs. Now, they got beat handily in the playoffs by Alabama, but they had their chance, and I think that's what a lot of people are looking for. And,